Thanks for choosing Tiger Den Sports with Jason Dorsey, your number one place for all things LSU.
Welcome in, Tiger fans, to the Tiger Den. This is Tiger Den Sports with your host, Jason Dorsey. Today's episode, we'll be talking about a little bit about SEC Media Days that's coming up on July 18th, who they're bringing, what 3 football players they're bringing, and what might happen at SEC Media Days. And we're going to start a new thing right now leading up to the first game between LSU and Florida State. We're going to go position by position on the football team and try to predict who's going to be the starters and things like that. So let's get started. So SEC Media Days is July 18th. I believe they're having it in Atlanta this year. I don't know why they moved it. They might try to move it to different cities every year. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, Brian Kelly decided to bring the linebacker Mike Jones, the defensive end / outside linebacker B.J. Ojulari, and also the sophomore receiver Jack Bech. Some people say Jack Bech was a surprise, but I mean, if you really sit down and think about it, that's probably the best 3 that you can have going, and I'll tell you why. Mike Jones and B.J. Ojulari are the leaders on defense. Mike Jones is the best linebacker you have. Even though he's been here only for 2 years, he transferred from Clemson, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. Mike Jones is really good as a linebacker. He did really good last year. He's a leader of your linebacker room and on your defense. B.J. Ojulari is your superstar who's probably going to be drafted within the top 10 of the NFL draft next year. He's a leader on your defense as well. I mean, he had, 8 sacks last year, 10 tackles for loss, or, I mean, even probably more than that. So he's a big-time leader on your defense. Him and Mike Jones are not shy with the media. They do interviews a lot. So that's 2 really good players. And then you go over to offense and you bring Jack Bech, who he loves the media as well. But he's very mature for a sophomore. He was really good last year as a tight end / receiver. I don't find he should be playing tight end, but that's the best they had last year, and he did pretty good. He held his own. But he's more of a receiver, and that's what he's going to play this year. But Jack Bech going to Media Days is not a big deal. I think it fits. He's a great person for the media. He doesn't mind interviews, and he's not going to say anything stupid to get ratings or anything like that. He's going to do a good job with the interviews. So SEC Media Days are on July 18th. They're going to have Radio Row there where they're going to interview all the coaches and players and all that type of stuff. The media is going to have a media room where they're going to interview the players, the coaches. And Brian Kelly might have to answer some tough questions about who's the quarterback going to be, and who the offensive line, the recruiting, all that type of stuff, the cultural fit, the normal things that go on at Media Days. But he'll be able to handle it. He's probably excited about SEC Media Days being his first one. So speaking of quarterbacks, now we're going to get into the first position that we're going to go over. And we're going to talk about quarterbacks today. So LSU has Miles Brennan. They have Jaden Daniels. They have Garrett Nussmeier. And they have Walker Howard. So if you really go through those four quarterbacks, you look at Miles Brennan. He's a 6-year senior. This is his last year, but he's only played in a handful of games. He's been injured, or he had to sit behind Joe Burrow while he was here, and he really never got on the field. He got on the field that 1 year. He played 3 games. He had a lot of passing yards, a lot of touchdowns, but he got injured, and that's where his season went. It went down the drain because he got injured. He couldn't play again. And he never really got on the field after that. Injuries just played a big part on why he's not the starter yet. So if you're looking at Miles Brennan, he been there for 6 years, but he only played in a handful of games. So while he might be mature, while he might be a person that's been around LSU for a long time, knows the ins and outs of LSU football, he's been through different coaching staffs and things like that. So people say he's mature, which he is. He's 22, 23 years old, something like that. But he don't have a lot of playing time. He don't have a lot of playing experience in the SEC. So how will he do? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I don't even know if he's the starter. So then you go get Jaden Daniels from Arizona State, who entered the transfer portal this past offseason. Jaden Daniels played 3 seasons at Arizona State. His first year, he did, spectacular. He can run, he can throw the ball. He's that dual threat quarterback that Brian Kelly and Mike Denbrock wants in an offense. But his past year at Arizona State, he did not do as well as he did the first year and the second year. At Arizona State, yes, he had 45 touchdowns total, which is really good. I can't remember all the passing yards he had or rushing yards, but he can throw the ball. He can run the ball. He got more of a deep ball passing game than intermediate. I know in the spring games he couldn't hit little hook routes, comeback routes consistently. He can hit the deep balls and he can run the ball. He can play the RPO game, run the run-pass option. So you have Jaden Daniels, who the staff likes and how they want to build their offense around a dual-threat quarterback. But you don't know if he's consistent enough to run the offense. If he can only throw the deep ball, then that kind of eliminates the RPO game because you want to run and get it out your hands quick. But if he's not consistent on those short passes, you can't really start him. So I don't know if he's going to be the starter either. So now you go to Garrett Nussmeier. Garrett Nussmeier, he's a redshirt freshman. Everybody knows the story last year. He played in 4 games, so he can redshirt. When the bowl game came up, he decided to skip the bowl game to keep his redshirt. Some people say that was a bad decision. Some other people say that's the best decision he could have made. He could have played in the bowl game and improved for this coaching staff. Brian Kelly was at the bowl game. If Garrett Nussmeier would have stayed and played that game, Brian Kelly could have seen what he had in Garrett Nussmeier. And you never know, he might be starting this year. Do the players look at Garrett Nussmeier as less of a leader because he chose to sit out the bowl game? I don't know. I haven't talked to the players about that. Maybe I need to. But either way, he's a redshirt freshman. And if you look at the Arkansas game, he did not have a great game against Arkansas when he started. He probably should have never started that game. But with him starting, you kind of seen the flaws in his game. Now, from last year to this year, did he grow? I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of questions. I hear in the spring and the spring games and spring practices that Garrett Nussmeier was the best quarterback out there. He can run the RPO game. He could throw the deep ball. He could throw the short intermediate routes. He was the most consistent. But is that because it was just spring practice, spring games, and when he gets to the first game against Florida State, will he look like he did against Arkansas? Or did he grow enough to take over as starter? I don't know. And I'm also hearing that he might not be the starter. Miles Brennan and Jaden Daniels might start off as playing two-quarterback system. Miles Brennan probably gets the start. Jaden Daniels probably has packages to come in to do the RPO game, to run the ball as a quarterback, hand it off, or just throw it deep down the field. I don't know yet. But that's what I'm thinking is going to be a two-quarterback system. And if Miles Brennan and Jaden Daniels don't show improvement, they don't show growth, they don't show that they can lead the offense, then I think Garrett Nussmeier takes over after 4 or 5 games. Unless Miles Brennan or Jaden Daniels really show that they got what it takes. And I know I didn't talk about Walker Howard, but from what I hear, his dad and him has no problem with redshirting, which probably is a good decision. He don't really need to start this year. But I hear he has a great arm, great mechanics, and to be a 5-star quarterback from Louisiana to go to Baton Rouge, that's a big deal. So I think in a year or two, he's going to be the starter. And that's going to be lights out because you still have great receiving core. You're getting great running backs in the recruiting. So with all that being said, these quarterbacks, yes, they're 4 great quarterbacks. They're 4 quarterbacks that you might be able to trust. They got good arms, good legs. They each do something different. But they have to put it all together on the field. And that's yet to be seen. So I guess we will all have to wait until the Florida State game before we get our answers. Please like, share, follow, and comment. Until next time, thanks for listening. Go Tigers.